Hey buddy, how you doing? Welcome to my channel. Well, many of you probably already know about this case, but for those of you who don't, what we're going to be talking about today is the shooting at the North York Girls' School, Jewish Girls' School in the Toronto Regional District. On Saturday, there was a shooting in the middle of the night. A car pulled up, two people got out, and started shooting at the school and then got back in. So they're looking for three people, a driver and two shooters. We're going to talk about why it's so important for not only Canadians, but also Americans and everybody in the free world to know about this because of what's happening in the world today. First, I'm going to roll a news clip, and I'm going to link that clip in the description below, as well as clips from other news articles as well, in case you want to research this. After you watch that clip, we'll come back and we'll talk about what that means for Canada, North America, and the free world in general.
Just after 9 a.m. this morning, the police were called to the base Haya Mushka Girls Elementary School here behind me. Staff on scene had found what they believed was evidence of a firearm discharge at the school. Police arrived at the school and we confirmed that a firearm discharge did occur. Just before 5 a.m. this morning, at approximately 4:50 a.m., suspects arrived at the school in a vehicle, a dark colored vehicle. They exited the vehicle and opened fire at the school, causing some damage to the front of the school. The suspects then got back into the vehicle and left the area. There were no reported sound of gunshots at the time, and there have been no reported injuries. I completely understand that this can cause concern and fear and anxiety in the community, especially when it happens at a school like this, and especially with the students, the parents, and the staff. I want the community to know that the Toronto Police is going to ensure that community safety is utmost importance, as we always do. And in this case, you will see an increased presence not only in this neighborhood by officers going door to door, business to business, asking if people have heard, seen anything, or have video of anything that they deem to be concerning. One of the questions that I'm sure people are asking is this a hate crime? Is this a terrorist act? What I want to say is it's too early in the investigation to say whether it is or not. We're not going to ignore the obvious, of what occurred here and what the target of the shooting was. But at the same time, it would be wrong to just guess at this point.
So as you can see from that clip, the Toronto Police are very hesitant to call it a hate crime or terrorism. And most politicians will also be hesitant because they want to know what the circumstances are. They want to wait for the investigation. They don't want to be embarrassed, and they don't want to call something what it isn't. As a retired police officer who is no longer constrained by his outfit, and also as a YouTube commentator, I feel I have a little bit more freedom to speak my mind in this case. Now, I could be wrong, but as far as I'm concerned, this was a hate crime and this was terrorism. And we're going to get into talking about that, and we're going to get into a possible solution to that, or if not a solution, at least a way that all of us can work towards solving this issue. So you're going to want to stick around for that. So why did this happen, and why is it important? Nobody was hurt, so why is it making as much news as it is? It's because of the Liberals and the government not taking appropriate action. What we've seen since Hamas attacked Israel and Israel went into Gaza and started their military operation there are massive protests. And while peaceful protests, I'm all for peaceful protests. These, in my mind, are not peaceful protests. In my mind, what these protests are doing, they're calling for hatred and they're calling for violence, and they're seditious in nature. They're not just calling for violence in Israel. They're not just calling for the destruction of Israel. They are calling for violent revolution here in Canada. And they're being backed, in my mind, by the communists, the Marxists. There is a group in Canada that call themselves the Communist Revolutionary Party. As far as I can figure, I've just seen a few people on television who claim they're part of it. They seem to be a bunch of students who probably have no clue what it means to actually live in a communist country. But they're very pliable, and they've had their minds totally distorted over the years with our socialist educational system. But that's just my view. So this shooting, I think, was done by Marxists. I don't think it was done by anybody who has an actual connection to Gaza. I could be wrong about that. If it had been a well-defined terrorist group like Hamas, they wouldn't have gone for property damage. They would have gone for casualties. That doesn't mean this wasn't terrorism. It was meant to frighten people. That's what terrorism is. And it was based on hate. They targeted the Jewish community. The reason why I think it's Marxists, because Marxists tend to agitate, and they want to get things all stirred up, and they want violence. They want a war. They want a revolution. That's why I think all these protests in Ottawa, in Toronto, in Vancouver, all across Canada and all across the United States and the free world, Marxists are behind them. These three individuals who did this shooting, this was their first step. It was probably a thrill for them. I will bet that they were very scared when they did this, but they were also very thrilled. And they got away with it, at least so far. Hopefully they'll be caught. But if they aren't caught, they will continue and they will escalate. And that's why it's so very important to catch them. But it's not just those three. It's everybody else who believes in their cause and all the other Marxists. This is the start of something very serious. They've gone from rallies, they've gone from protests, they've gone for calling for violent revolution to actually engaging in violence. Even though nobody was hurt, even though nobody was shot, the fact that they shot up a school, that's violent. And it will just get worse from here. And this is all really the fault of the liberals. I'm not going to blame the police. And I know from some of my other videos that you might think I would be blaming the police. But the orders are coming down from higher up. It's the liberals who are preventing the police from doing their job. I think that if the liberals had quashed these violent protests, because they are violent if they're calling for violence, if they had put an end to them when they started, we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be at the point where people are starting to shoot up synagogues and schools. The liberals have spent millions, if not billions of dollars to try and curtail our speech in the name of preventing hate speech. But a lot of the speech they're trying to curtail isn't hate speech. But what's happening at these rallies and protests, that is hate speech. And what happened at this school, that is terrorism. If the liberals really wanted to put a stop to this, they could have before it even got started. And we have to keep the pressure on them to start doing that, to start allowing the police to do their job. It's my belief that if we don't put an end to this soon, that we will be in a full-blown war before the next election, which may be what the liberals and the WEF want. I know that what I said will probably infuriate some of the free speech absolutists. So be it. I don't consider calling for violence and advocating for violence to be legitimate. But we need to take the line from our national anthem, "Stand on guard for thee," maybe a little bit more serious than we think. The police need to act. The government needs to act. But you need to be aware that this government's record on issues like this and, well, all other issues is very poor. I'd hate to see it come down to what I think it's leading to, which is a full-out war. So what can we do? Well, first we need to keep pressure on the government to do what's right, to put an end to these protests and this hate. But we also need to encourage the Governor General to dissolve Parliament and call an election. And to that end, there is a link in the description below and the pinned comment that you can follow. It will take you to a petition. I would encourage you to sign that petition. But there's other things we need to consider. Consider how prepared you are for a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. We've gone a long time in this country without the need to protect ourselves. And hopefully, it will never come to the point where we will have to. But I don't have a lot of faith in this Liberal government. And I think that if you have faith in them, then your faith is misplaced. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. And while you're down there, please like this video, share on social media and with your friends, And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.